But typically the way the saber would be used is a lot in ground fighting, and it would be, you know, they would say that like a swing of a good saber could cut the front legs off a horse. And so it's really a power weapon. It's not so much of a finesse weapon, it's more about the slashing and power you can generate with it. So there are a couple of rules we follow in this kind of more crude methodology. The sword has a lot more articulation in the wrist, but the saber, of course, if your wrist is flopping around, you're probably going to hurt yourself if you try to cut the legs off a horse. So my hope is that by the end of this class that we can all easily cut the legs off a horse. A 90-degree angle between the saber and your forearm, and that doesn't change. So in general, most of the time, you're never doing stuff like this with a saber. The sword, certainly you used in that way for stabbing and articulating, but the saber is generally hack and slash. And so you try to keep this strong 90-degree angle forearm to weapon. And then what that results in is that you have to articulate the weapon through the shoulder joint, a lot through the shoulder joint. And so one of the things we used to talk about in terms of the benefits of this practice is it's really, really good for the upper spine, the thoracic spine, the chest, and the upper back. Center turns, pulls the arm. And what I want you to pay attention to is that 90-degree angle between the weapon and your forearm, that as you transition, particularly, that you're not doing something like this. You want to keep it at 90. Keep it at 90. So that as the hand comes here and I rotate, the center turns and pulls, the weapon is going back and following that 90-degree angle. And then I turn and it stays at 90. And because we're not learning a form today, I'm going to focus on doing these exercises bilaterally so that you get the benefit on both. And turn back. Center turn, sword turns over. Turn back. Just straight across. So you notice there's quite a bit of articulation that has to happen in the shoulder. And this already is one of the big benefits of this practice. And if you have something that's very light, you may not notice it quite as much. If you have something that's too heavy, you may start to get a little fatigued. But do your very best to keep that wrist straight. Okay, so you're not deviating. We call this ulnar and radial deviation, this kind of movement of the wrist. You don't want it to be doing that because over time that'll get quite tiresome. You want to keep the wrist straight and strong and articulate the shoulder. And particularly pay attention to it on the transitions. Really be anal about keeping that 90-degree when you transition, because it is most likely that it will change at that time if you're not quite aware of it. It looks like everybody's getting a good idea. Try to keep the elbow down. Okay, so you don't want to do like, well, I'm seeing a little bit of something like this. Don't do that one. Just keep the elbow heavy, rotate. Keep the elbow heavy, rotate. And the grip on the weapon can be fairly loose. You don't want to be white knuckling it. Okay, so just try to stay as relaxed as possible while you're articulating like this. 90-degree angle. And you can start to observe the relationship to the turning of the center and the rotation of the arm. Okay, this is very similar to when we do silk reeling exercise and the body turns and the hand turns over, and then the body turns back and the hand turns over. What happens in the saber is we just keep an open hand with the tiger's mouth. So we have just our regular hand position, thumb in an L shape, fingertips up. Well, fingertips aren't always up, but the hand is open. And what happens is it follows. Okay, so this is how it, if we were doing this exercise, it would go this way. The sword would turn over, the hand would turn over, the body would turn, and the hand would follow. It turns, and then they articulate. So turn one way, turn the other way. Keep that 90-degree. This way it's good. As you switch here, the palm should rotate to here. You got it. Yeah. And all the usual things apply. Make sure the arms are slightly extended, the armpits are open, that you're not just doing something like this, but that you're active through the shoulder girdle. And that as this hand turns and presses out, it's actually got some structure to it so that it's not collapsed into your body, but that it's, if someone were to push on this arm, it would be structurally sound. So here, this is away from my body, it's not in. Instead of straight across, we're going to cut an X in front of our body. So the X comes up the center line, down behind, comes under and up the center line, down the other side, up the center line, well, across the center line, I shouldn't say up the center line, it crosses. The middle of the X would be somewhere around the center of your chest. Under, and turn, down, and up. You sink into the back, the palm presses down, and then the palm turns out. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So as much as you can, you want to feel connected to the feet. Feel relaxing the shoulder blades as the hands are coming up. Don't lift the shoulders. This isn't a, so in external styles of Kung Fu, they'll do a lot where they're waving the sword arm kind of with their arm. And it can look really fancy and they can do lots of twirly twirls, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the whole body to move the weapon, right? This, so that the body turns and drags it up. Sinks. turns and drags it up. Sinks, turn, drag. Sink, turn, drag. So just keep on playing with that. Just want to take a quick look and see where we're at. Keep your 90 degrees. Yeah, I wasn't watching you, Naomi. It takes some effort to maintain that 90. You're gonna forget about it. That's why I keep repeating it. I'll do a little closer here so it might be easier for you to follow. You're coming up, sinking down, palm turns up, pushes down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. So this is one of the reasons that I mentioned that it's nice to have something that's flat, because then you can tell how it's articulating, right? If you have a, and this matters more over time as you develop more accuracy. But if it's just a round stick, you can't really tell which way the blade would be facing, right? So with the saber, obviously we want to be cutting with the sharp side. So as we slice up, it would be cutting this way, and then cutting back behind us, and then cutting up this way, and then cutting back behind us. So you push it down in the back. It comes past the outside of your body as it's pressing down, and then it arcs back up to cut in the front, and then does the same thing on the other side. Always cutting up across the front. So always cutting up as you cross the front. Either side, it doesn't matter. You should always be coming up as you cross the front. And then down beside the body, and then up, and down beside the body, and then up. Sorry, down, up, down beside the body, up, down beside the body, up. And you can try to extend your intent or your mind out to the tip of the weapon, so that you can feel as though it were slicing through something. Just in the same way you would use a kitchen knife. Okay, if you're trying to cut a tomato, let's say, in general, you know, when you use a knife, there has to be motion in the blade, right? You don't just typically, well, unless you have a really sharp knife, chop straight down on a tomato. You would slice through it. So you're trying to kind of trace your awareness through the blade as it makes the cut. So it's from the base of the blade and out through the tip, slicing down, 90-degree angle turn. So there can be a little sinking and rising through the spine. and then a sinking and rising through the spine. So every time you turn to face forwards, you can press up to cut and then sink down, press up to cut, down behind. And the hand, the open hand, will just, when it comes across the body, you want it to come to your center line. So you don't put your hand all the way across your body or something like that. It's hard to see, I know, on Zoom in terms of the relationship, but if I'm coming on this side, here my hand is on my center line. And here my sword is on my center line. Sink, step, cut, sink, step, cut, sink, step, cut, sink, step, cut, sink, step, cut. So essentially taking our figure 8 pattern and learning to step with it. So I'll do that again, coming at you. And just feel a nice stretch up through the spine, just like a toy, sink into the front foot, take a step, cut up, and sink, step, cut up, sink, step, cut up, sink, step. Okay, so the same thing can be done going backwards. So we'll do one more roto forwards. Coming up and sinking down, pressing up and sinking down, pressing up and sinking down, up, down. So when you run out of road, you can cut up and back, sink down and step. Up and back, sink down and step. Up, down, step. Up, down, step. Up, down, step, up. Let's say we're cutting at a 45-degree angle with the sword, and then we drop the tip, feel the arm rotate, and pull it up on the opposite side of your head and push down with the other hand. Feel it come around your back, so this would be straight up and down on your spine. This would be blocking something from behind you. And then cutting out again. And then rotate, press up, around the back of the head, and chop. Rotate, press up, around the head,